Tuesday, welcome everybody. Thank you. Derry Bennett, welcome. Mighty Mouse, Mouselander, welcome. Michael Hauser, Heat, how's it going, everybody? Thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate it. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening, afternoon. All right, folks. We definitely have a few things to go through, so I guess we should get started today. We're gonna try to keep it on schedule. Folks, if you guys enjoy the content and want to keep supporting the channel, there are many different ways you can do so. If you're on the YouTube, keep liking the stream. It really does help us out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's 254 of you have already done. Consider following consider following us here on Twitch. Check out the merch store by hitting !merch. Don't forget to join the Discord, folks. This Saturday, that's right, this Saturday is the last Saturday of May. And that means one thing and one thing only, folks. It means movie night. Saturday, 6 p.m. Join the Discord. Alright, folks, we got a plenty of things to go through, so let's get started, folks. Thank you guys once again for hanging out. I appreciate it. You know, I've got to do a few things to spice up some of the layout here. Although I've kind of grown fond as to the way the stream works, there are a couple things that I want to do. Alright, folks. First, let's take a look at this.
The mayor of Anchorage and trying to evoke wokeness as a way of scaring voters to vote for you, even though you're completely incompetent as a mayor, because it's trickier for you to sort of like come up with something else to scare them with, right? Like you need to evoke something that is sort of hypothetical and theoretical and just sort of something that you can, you know, you're in Anchorage and a lot of the typical boogeymen aren't really available to you in Anchorage. It's not the most diverse place. Now, it is possible in Anchorage, you could get a once a year men in tutus, as he says, drag queen
convention
reading hour at the library. That's not inconceivable. That could happen there.
Where a drag queen reads the Cat in a Hat in a slightly more enthusiastic way than you might typically see at a
Or
library.
maybe they'll get rid of some of the Dr. Seuss books up there. I mean, who knows?
Unbelievable.
But Mike Lindell and Steve Bannon, they have more to work with when they're talking about Minnesota. And I don't mean the Timberwolves. Here is... Mike Lindell. And wow, I love this backdrop he's got.
I know, I want that for my
It's so
house.
regal. I mean,
Well,
It's a-
and Jesus-y.
it's a little offensive that the lion takes prominence over Jesus, but whatever. I mean,
Here is Mike Lindell.
In a fight here, Steve, what they've done with this flag is
Oh, pause it. We should say
This is about the state flag, by the way.
that they're talking about the new Minnesota state flag. What was the old one?
It's crazy, actually. We could maybe pull up the old one. It was like a settler cartoon. Really, like,
oh really?
with a Native American exiting.
All right, let's just do take it from here with the new flag.
The line is Jesus. Oh, gotcha.
This has been a fight here, Steve. What they've done with this flag is absolutely
is the population up there enraged? You've got an Islamist flag flying across above your state capitol. What in the hell's going on? What are people doing about it?
people. You know, I haven't went out there in the public.
An Islamist flag? Okie dokie.
And asked everybody, but what I'm hearing for is,
This man has not been outside.
No. I know. I haven't been out actually in the public in.
I stay away from those demons.
6 months. I've been hot. There are servers in Germany.
Been huff and glue in the warehouse.
Yeah.
I haven't went out there in the public and asked everybody, but what I'm hearing for is, and people that I do see, it's an atrocity. Everybody's going, what is this? What is this? Is this a takeover? This is like a Trojan horse here in Minnesota, Steve. When they started pouring in, they don't love our country, and I'm going to say that.
They hate our country. Omar hates our country. They hate our country. Not that they love our country. They're not neutral. They hate this country. They hate the Judeo-Christian West. They're Sharia supremacist.
Whew. Man. So much to unpack in those 5 seconds there. Man.
Yep, I grew up here. I spent my whole family, everybody's here. Everyone says, well, Mike, why don't you leave Minnesota? My company, it's a family and an employee-owned company. And we've been nothing but attacked. We're sitting here.
Bro. Your company is going to be nothing with that absurd amount of lawsuit money that you have to end up paying. Maybe stop being such a loudmouth freak. True. What a timeline we live in. Vocal pillow salesman in the news. Yeah, local vocal pillow salesman turned election truther. Turned election truther is now complaining with vocal fascist about a flag being too Islamist? Question mark.
Here, and it's all different races, but like you just heard there, we're 80% Christian in Minnesota. 1% these Islamics comes in here, and then they get to have this flag. It's like we're getting just attacked from every direction. It's just
Mike. We got to let's go, Mike. We need that situation in Minnesota. This ought to flip all Minnesota. This.
Oh man, I love how he's holding up a pillow. Is that a pillow that he's selling? Is that one of his pillows? Wants to wash his brain now. We all do after listening to this.
Sorry, pause it real quick. Minnesota is 80% Christian. I wonder how that happened.
Yeah,
I mean, if there were Native Americans that maybe existed until something happened there.
This new flag.
Well, wait a second. Before we get there, we don't.
Sorry, did we see the flag versus the new one yet? No, not yet. But the new flag is it's just so simple. It's like a two-tone. It's like a two-tone flag. I think it has one star on it or something. I'll have to look at it again, or maybe they'll show it. I think they will. It's in the pillow. Yeah, I think I just saw an example. Yeah, I think they're gonna show it. The pillow is for suffocating enemies. Exactly.
On with this clip because I want to hear. I mean, this sounds like what is this? I mean, this is so Islamist. This flag. It must be what is it? Like a picture of the Quran or what? Is there any more to this? Let's listen. Yeah, let's listen a little more because I mean, this
flag. It's like we're getting just attacked from every direction. It's just
Mike, we got to let's go, Mike. We need that situation in Minnesota. This ought to flip all Minnesota. This will flip Minnesota to President Trump, but we got to get on it. This is outrageous. You got an Islamist flag. You got an Islamist Sharia supremacist flag above the state capitol, one of the greatest states in this union, one of the most beautiful states, Minnesota. Mike, thank you very much. We'll see you this afternoon.
thinks he
Wait,
really
let me
does.
hold
Tomorrow
this.
night, I'm going to be.
I love how he's holding these pillows. You know, if you didn't want to be attacked from all sides, you shouldn't have made so many enemies. I mean, like, but the problem here is that it's the attacks that they are perceiving, they're not happening. This is all in their head. This is a completely made up situation. This is a completely made up situation in an attempt to be the victim, which is like the modus operandi for these people is to make themselves the victim somehow, some sort of way in every situation, because like they're not being attacked. It's just completely made up.
with our great real president.
They cut his plug there.
Yeah, he tried to lift up the flag version of the My Pillow. Incidentally, that's talk about like desecrating the flag. But all right, let's put up.
Hello, I'm Martin Sheen.
Ah!
I'm reaching out to you now, not as an actor,
Whoa.
but as a concerned fellow American.
This. Let's do the new one. Let's see the Islamist.
Yeah, I gotta see the.
Whoa!
So it's a dark blue shape resembling Minnesota on the left, according to with a white 8-pointed North Star on.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. See, I did remember. It was like some sort of two-tone with a star on it. Dang, I'm good. Yeah. Apparently, now because of this design here, Sharia law has won. Sorry, Minnesota.
On it, the North Star. But you know, it's if you take one of the points away, it becomes a 7-pointed star, and we all know what that's meant.
No, I don't know what that's about.
Oh, isn't that supposed to be satanic?
Well,
I don't even know.
well, wait.
'Cause I'm not
is
a
there,
lunatic.
isn't the North Star? Is that a?
I was being sarcastic with that part, but like, I mean, that seems pretty secular to me.
They
It's
say
just a
it
North
shares
Star.
too many.
It's just a freaking star, man. Holy yikes. Does it even like the North Star design? It's kind of like this. It's kind of like this. So I don't even know if that even makes sense. Stars are a motif used in flags of predominantly Muslim countries too, but also in our nation's flag. Right, like it's completely innocuous. Like that is the North Star design. It's just like a regular, like this doesn't, I don't know. The upside down star is a pentagram. That sounds like Israel.
Too many colors with the Puntland State of Somalia flag, or at least that
You know
was the
what's
complaint
weird?
when
Have
Charlie
they-
Kirk was saying it.
Have they looked back and seen like what the Minnesota hockey team was called when I was a kid?
The North Stars.
Yes.
Yeah, but Muslims can see the North Star too.
that was
Some
that was what they do, is that they sent out, like, that's what Sharia does.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Sharia subversion, no doubt about it. Oh my goodness. This is so silly. This is absurd. Yeah, wait till they find out. Wait till Lindell and Steve Bannon find out about the new version of Scrabble, because this is in the same territory, by the way. In the same territory of like the most absurd things to make freaking segments about, or podcast episodes about, or news segments about. This is pretty much in the same line. Like, man, we're just saying things to say things at this point.
Sends out like beacons in the past, and that's.
But what
There's like a 30-year lag.
It's indoctrination.
Yeah.
Is North Star the symbol of Minnesota?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very prominent symbol, certainly. The people are saying the 8-point is a Viking symbology, which may be true, maybe not. I don't know. I will just say, like, this is a complete projection. This is basically a corporate neutering of what was an offensive flag of political indoctrination. You can put up the old one here. You literally see it's a settler cartoon of a Minnesota settler plowing land as a Native American rides across it on a horse. And yeah, I mean, you know, kind of all that you need right there. Like, there goes that's how we became Minnesota became 80% Christian.
I mean, this is also to your point, Sam. You know how like the Islamists, they just plant these seeds and they just keep ramping things up to implement their agenda. Because I remember hearing some years ago that Sharia law was being indoctrinated into state houses all across the country.
Oh my
Yep,
God!
undoubtedly.
There was multiple states across the country during the Bush administration where the legislatures outlawed Sharia law because they thought that they were going to be taken over.
Well, a fool's errand.
Oh, and incidentally, North Star
Little did they
is
know.
a symbol of Minnesota and has been the state's official motto since 1858.
Islamists.
Which is, yeah, and again, like, just to put that up, like,
It's on the state seal.
and the Native American, as you point out, riding to the left or to the west, which is where the Dakota were dispossessed to.
I mean, anti-Semitism is in the news a lot because there is a rise in anti-Semitic incidents. But what most people on the right or in the center are focusing on is the moral panic about anti-Semitism. What is not discussed enough is the rampant institutional Islamophobia that this country is engaging in and
For
has been
decades.
for decades.
Yeah. That flag was problematic, right? Maybe that's really like fundamentally what the issue is with this, because, like, you know, people like Steve Bannon consider this a slight against them for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, like, the new updated flag is it's just literally a two-tone flag with the North Star, the most innocuous thing. And, like, as they were just discussing, like, that's been like a part of Minnesota for, you know, literally like hundreds of years. The Sharia narrative is probably to help against banning pro-Palestinian protests, see the paid troll spamming, stuff like that on those streams. Yeah, but like the anti-Islam stuff is like pretty par for the course for like far-right commentary, far-right political commentary. It's been like that for decades. Sam's correct.
It is not just hatred that exists in society in this instance. It is institutional. It is a key part of our foreign policy. It is a key part of, honestly, American empire because of what we've decided our role is in the region of the Middle East.
They refer to Iraq and Afghanistan as Indian country when we were flying missions over there.
And so, like, I just get so annoyed that we can't actually talk about how this institutional racism is directing us right now, and it's reflected in the way that Steve Bannon feels like he can talk about this.
L'Etoile du Nord is on that old symbol. That is the North Star.
What? God, these Islamists. They go back. They really
Yeah, but that's
are
French.
tricky. I know.
That's what the people should have said. Hey, we're trying to de-Frenchify.
And apparently the blue on, I mean, you could see that same blue is in the old flag. The new blue, it's supposed to be about all the lakes and
Or is it about all the
and
Muslims? I like the idea of, like, you know, the Trojan horse
Isn't
versus the
blue-
Trojan flag. Like, you can put people in a giant horse. You can't really, like, smuggle people in a flag and then what are you gonna unroll it and they all come
super
out?
thin people
Yeah.
woven into the fabric.
Like you get rolled up in a mattress.
Unbelievable.
They've been really on that. Charlie Kirk was talking about that months ago. And it's like that it shares a color scheme with Somali flag, but like it's also colors that are associate with Minnesota.
They love, I mean, they just want to indoctrinate their audience into this extreme conspiratorial thinking about particularly Muslim people, but also
Yeah.
black people and Jews and
Yeah, but it's like the
The
vigilant.
flag of Somalia is blue, the same color blue, incidentally, that the existing flag of Minnesota was. And
Maybe it goes back farther than we realize.
but the star is a 5. They've changed the star. Now it actually looks like a star. Like literally a star.
And now the plan commences.
Yeah.
Take
Well-
over your Lake Minnetonka cabins and turn them into mosques.
I do enjoy how much Ilhan Omar just triggers them. I saw Trump call her a hater over the weekend, and she did some TikTok saying like, "I do hate you," basically. And you know that's why she's the GOAT right now in Congress.
Mommy's Lilman. Did you catch Chris Cuomo promoting ivermectin as a COVID treatment on PBD? You can smell the stench of plopped human shite seeping through your device's screen. It's a ridiculous turn, but nonetheless unsurprising.
I don't care, honestly.
Yeah. Who?
He's going to bring all of his all those Cuomo heads.
Right.
They roll deep.
Yeah,
That's the thing is like when you leave the mothership, we've seen this with Fox News, but they at least were, you know, ideological in what they were promoting, like Tucker Carlson or Bill O'Reilly. When you're a centrist kind of CNN anchor, what is your constituency when you leave? Like you've just got to carve out a niche for yourself. And I don't know.
Got to fight tooth and nail with Don Lemon for.
Yeah, you just like I think most of them just like turn they just turn into like conservatives. Anti-Islam got pretty strong after 9/11 to help get support for invading Afghanistan and Iraq. Yep. ADT Hambliss, welcome. Thank you. Racism against Chinese served the same purpose.
For every view.
Exactly.
Right. Who cares?
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
I already did, Sam. All right, folks, shifting gears. Yeah, hit follow too. Am I not?
Many of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan.
Oh, yeah. Yes, follow us here on Twitch. Yes. That's true. Air travel in Iran surely is conveniently dangerous. Oof.
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Please tell me what that has to do with Merrick Garland.
Is she a porn star?
Oh, Goldman. That's
Is that serious? Like, is this the type of stuff that's happening in the chamber right now? The simulacra helicopters helicopters traveling in storms. Helicopters travel in storms and is dangerous everywhere. Yep.
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Please tell me what that has to do with Merrick Garland.
Is she a porn star?
So I imagine that the person who asked if she is a if she is a porn star is probably a Republican. The person that they're referencing is the judge currently, the daughter of the judge that is currently at the head of one of the at the head of one of the Trump trials. And no, she's not a porn star. She was I think she worked for like a campaign for somebody. But yeah, someone did die on a Singapore airline because of turbulence on a Boeing. Yep, that's true. Look at their history. They die in air accidents like Russians fall from windows taped to chairs. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they're going to have to do an investigation, although, you know. It's not it's not out of the possibility that it just simply was because of a storm. I think the porn star comment was a Democrat trying to somehow reference Stormy Daniels. Really?
Oh, Goldman. That's right. He's advising. Okay.
He's advising who? What? Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about. I guess
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No,
what you're
ain't
reading.
nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order, Mr. Chairman.
Order. Yeah, so professional. This is actually an exchange that happened in the halls of Congress, in the chamber of Congress.
It's beneath even order of your committee.
I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Green's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
Baby girl? I don't think
we are
so.
gonna move, and we're gonna take your words down.
I second that motion.
Yeah, she's acting like a freaking child, so yeah, I think that's appropriate. I think that's appropriate. This is funny. She gets herself tossed out.
So who will have?
Phenomenal stuff happening, huh?
That was a snippet from a House Oversight Committee hearing on whether or not to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress. Yeah, they're very clearly doing some really important stuff in Congress. So good job, guys. Now, as you saw, Marjorie Greene attacked Jasmine Crockett's physical appearance after Crockett questioned why she was bringing up something that Crockett didn't think was germane to the proceeding. Now, when AOC intervened to defend Crockett, that's when all hell broke loose. And what we're about to see spawned an entire news cycle about this exchange because it got really heated, and somehow John Fetterman got involved as well. And when I say he got involved, let me be clear. He inserted himself into the conversation, and he invoked Israel randomly because, I mean, that's...
Of course. Because that's what normal and hinged people do. All right, give it to me.
That's what John Fetterman does these days. So before we get to all of that, though, in the aftermath, let's look at what happened in case you missed it.
Ms. Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she
Chair
was
recognizes-
apologizing.
Oh, okay. Wait. I saw this part.
Ms. Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she was
Chair recognizes-
apologizing. No. She was
Okay,
apologizing.
hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Ms. Green
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well,
seconds.
then
Okay,
you're
reserve
not
the right to
striking your
object.
words.
I am
Mr.
not
Perry.
apologizing.
Now let's go. Come on, guys.
Why don't you debate me?
Okay, I know. I've seen this part. I've definitely seen this part. Okay. She really just did this.
Enter the ring of logic and reason. If I don't know what I'm talking about and you point that out, that's an ad hominem, baby. Your argument's been demolished. If I say something heinous and that makes you angry, that's an emotional argument, and I win. You're going up against a titan of the mind. So you don't want a free exchange of ideas? Isn't that what society's all about? You're never gonna change my mind, but a bunch of dumbasses online will think I won. Why don't you want to debate? Please debate me. Come on, please debate me. Oh, fuck.
That's literally her. Anyways,
Mr. Chairman,
she's just miffed because of Johnson.
the minority.
Pretty self-evident.
You're not.
Yeah, you're
out
not.
of order.
You don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Okay, move to strike the.
I'd like to
I move to
strike
strike the
those
lady's
words as well.
words.
I would like to strike
The lady's
as well.
words again.
That's 2 requests to strike. That's 2 requests to strike.
Oh, they cannot take the
There's
words.
another motion to strike her words again. Please
All right.
get
Okay.
your members under
Here's
control.
the correct party. Ms. Green, do you ask unanimous? Do you agree to unanimous consent to strike your words?
Johnson was invited to Trump's trial and she wasn't. Womp womp. This is embarrassing.
Repeat again for the second time. Yes, I'll strike
right.
my words,
That-
but I'm not
all right.
apologizing.
Without objection. Without
Not
objection.
apologizing.
21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's?
It's me.
Ms. Crockett.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on
UK politics has better insults when they argue.
this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold
a
on.
I'm
parliament.
trying to find clarification on what qualifies.
Chairman, motion to
I had
strike
no
those
idea
words.
what you
Oh my
just
God.
said.
Jamie Raskin is just like, yo, for real. Personal insults get you removed in the U.S. Congress, and yet here we are. Yeah, just testing the rules.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just.
You just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to talk about it.
Voted to do it.
Order.
That's probably why. I see the simulacra. That's probably why Representative Crockett is asking this.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at calm.
That's why Crockett framed it as, would it violate the rules if I said this rather than saying it directly to Marjorie Taylor Greene? Gotcha.
Calm down.
No, because this
I
is
would
what
like
y'all
to get
do.
through proceedings.
So I'm trying to
Hey,
get
Ms.
clarification.
Crockett, you're not
Y'all wanna
recognized.
play
Ms.
games,
I can't hear
Crockett.
you with your
and
yelling.
You don't want
Calm
me
down.
to be,
Can
no,
you please calm down?
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk
Please calm
noise,
down.
and then you
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if I
Look,
come,
Chairman,
if I
can
come
we
and
send
talk
outside to
shit
take a
about
break
her,
for 5
y'all
minutes?
gonna have a problem.
Mr.
Order.
Chairman.
Oof.
Chair.
I don't know why
Okay.
you're
Order.
Goddamn. Listen, good for Jasmine Crockett for standing up for herself. I think that if Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to comment on other people's physical appearance and call them unintelligent, then she deserves a taste of her own medicine. That's
correct.
That's how you handle bullies. So I unequivocally support Jasmine Crockett's comments here, and my one criticism is that she didn't take it further, because there is basically endless insults that you could hurl at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Nonetheless, she did a pretty good job at dragging Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it clearly struck a nerve because Marjorie Greene actually responded by defending her bleach blonde, bad-built butch body, saying, yes, my body is built and strong, not with nips, tucks, plastic, or silicone, but through a healthy lifestyle, soon turning 50 years old. God willing, I will continue to lift, run, swim, play sports, surf, ski, club, and live this life to the fullest and enjoy every single moment. Now, I'm assuming her plastic comment was another jab at Jasmine Crockett.
Not triggered, by the way. Not triggered.
But her feelings were clearly hurt. But I mean, if you don't want others to criticize your physical appearance, maybe you shouldn't criticize theirs. Like, don't be mean to others if you don't want them to be mean to you. I think that we've all learned this lesson, like kindergarten, first grade maybe. But I mean, she can't help herself because she's a condescending fascist who's living validation of the Dunning-Kruger effect. But her excuse is that she actually didn't start this, Democrats did, because Jamie Raskin attacked Trump in his opening statement, which supposedly violates decorum and I guess gives her a blank check to insult Democrats. And she says, AOC isn't intelligent. Jasmine Crockett has fake eyelashes. These aren't attacks on personalities. These are just facts. I just want to remind everyone that this is a 50-year-old woman with the maturity of a toddler.
Yep.
Hold on tight because it's the Six Flags
Oi.
Memorial Day sale.
I'm not
For a
going to
limited
Six
time, go
Flags,
all out.
okay?
But
I don't got it like that, okay? Fun fact, Crockett just filed a trademark application for the 6B words.
in an interview with CNN, Jasmine Crockett spoke more about this exchange, and here's what she said.
So I want to clarify that I actually did not react instantaneously. I actually was trying to allow the process to work. So you heard from AOC, who is our vice ranking member, and you heard from Jamie Raskin, who's our ranker, as we attempted to go through the process. And there was an agreement, and of course, Marjorie had to be Marjorie, and she refused to actually apologize. Therefore, I needed clarification as to why the chairman refused to actually take her words down, which meant that she would be kicked out of the committee room for the rest of the hearing, which would have been appropriate.
Gotcha. She had shirts with it for sale within a day. That's amazing.
Now, the part that I think really kind of, frankly, caught the internet afire is when you described Green in this request for clarification as a bleached blonde, bad built butch body, which I had to look at my notes to read. Any regrets about that kind of language?
No regrets.
Especially given that you were trying to make a point, frankly, about decorum in the hearing room.
I have no regrets, and I'll tell you why.
Nice.
Because Marjorie Taylor Greene is the type of person that if you give her an inch, she'll take a mile. And the fact that they continue to allow her to break the rules of decorum over and over and over, whether it's the State of the Union that the president is delivering and she's wearing a MAGA hat or otherwise, the reason that she didn't have committee assignments before was because she did not know how to conduct herself as a member of Congress. And so if I just sit there and say, oh, well, Marjorie said it about me.
Uh-oh. Hello, freedom of speech. Hello, person that's been banned in quite the amount of channels there. See how long you last here, I guess.
What's to stop her to continue to do it again and again? And at the end of the day, I was elected as a representative of Congress, but that doesn't mean that I'm supposed to be somebody's doormat.
Good for her, and I will never blame someone for defending themselves. When it comes to decorum, however, I couldn't care less about that. Marjorie Greene isn't wrong because she broke decorum. She's in the wrong because she was being an asshole. And not just any kind of an asshole. She was being a racist asshole, as explained by Jasmine Crockett.
So you also called...
Yeah, like, well, I guess, like, the reason why that exists is because, like, she should have been kicked out, right? Like, she should have been kicked out of the Congress. That's what should have happened.
Green racist for what she said about you. Why is that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because as I've received so many amazing compliments from MAGA America throughout my time in Congress, a lot of times when I would go viral, instead of them trying to address the things that I laid out in a very factual way, what they would try to do is say, oh, look at her hair, or look at her nails, or look at her lashes. And they would all then associate anything that I do as a form of beautification with being quote unquote ghetto. And so to me, she was just basically repeating the nonsense that MAGA world is constantly putting out there, because I am not the only woman in Congress that wears lashes. And there are women on her side of the aisle that wear lashes as well as hair extensions. But she's never felt like that was a dig that she needed to take at anyone, except for me, a Black woman who sits on the committee. And then, of course, she went after AOC and called her unintelligent, a brown woman that sits on the committee.
Listen, she is absolutely right. And before any of you comment and try to deny the role that race played in this exchange, let me remind you, we are talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene here. She literally spoke at the convention of Nick Fuentes, who is a self-proclaimed white nationalist who openly advocates for a white ethno-state. So I think that it's perfectly reasonable for a Black woman to stand up to a racist like Marjorie Taylor Greene and call out the role that race plays in Greene's behavior here, because it does play a role. That's pretty obvious, and we don't have to pretend as if that's not the case, because we're not just talking about anyone. Again, we are talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene of all people here. But some people saw the entire exchange that we all just saw in a very different way. For example, John Fetterman decided to chime in and reacted by tweeting the following, quote, "In the past, I've..."
There we go. This is what we came here for, right? Bro, it is a culture that is questionable regarding checking other accounts' history. I don't even know what that means.
I've described the U.S. House as the Jerry Springer Show. Today, I'm apologizing to the Jerry Springer Show. My brother in Christ, you are literally a United States Senator and you're supporting a foreign country's genocide. Don't pretend like you're above this in any way, shape, or form, because you are the circus that you're denouncing. But AOC responded to him saying, I understand you likely would not have stood up for your colleague and seem to be confused about racism and misogyny being a both sides issue, but I stand up to bullies instead of becoming one. And to the women of Pennsylvania, I'd stand up for you too. Now, she also retweeted Veronica Escobar, who said, women of color in Congress are frequently targeted by misogynistic, xenophobic, ignorant people. I've lived it. One of the shameless extremists we work with insulted Jasmine Crockett, and AOC used parliamentary procedure to demand a standard of decorum. There is no both sides, and they're both right. But Fetterman was apparently butthurt by the mild criticism that he received, because when he was asked about this on CNN State of the Union during an interview with Jake Tapper, he pretended as if he was better than all of them.
Wait, let me guess. He called them Hamas supporters or something? Is that what he did? Fetterman, of all people, talking about decorum. Yep. That's true. Yep. Did he call them Hamas? I guess we'll see.
And then he doubled down on the both sidesism, making it seem like AOC and Crockett are the same as Marjorie Taylor Greene. And he invoked Israel because it's John Fetterman. But let's listen.
Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez seems to be suggesting that you're a bully.
Oh, well, of course, that's absurd. I was just simply responding to the kind of chaos and everything that Representative Greene started as well. And if everyone on the committee was proud of what they've produced, they're entitled to their opinion. Or if they feel that this is the kind of a video that you want to send to a classroom of 8th grade civics kind of students across America, again, that's their choice.
What? I'm confused. He lost me. Sorry, folks. I'm completely lost with that one.
Now, to me, what I would, that's their choice. But if I'm going to push back against anything, it's going to be pushing back against Hamas and not vote against Israel. And I'm going to push back.
What? Just brain rot. Brain rot in real time. What is he talking about? What does this have to do with the exchange? What does this have to do with what happened in Congress? I'm confused. Modernism, thank you for the follow.
Against Putin. I'm not going to vote against the aid for Ukraine the way Representative Greene has done. And then I'm also going to push back against the TikTok vote as well. And now TikTok is essentially a Chinese communist government asset.
And you're basically a fascist genocide supporting Israeli asset. But I don't think he was smart enough to comprehend AOC's point, because he, again, both sides the situation and made it seem like AOC and Crockett are on the same level as Greene. They're equal opposites on the same spectrum. When, even though he's both sidesing it, you're kind of doing apologia for white supremacy, because there's no equivalence between the far left and the far right. And to even say far left is a bit of a misnomer here, because AOC and Crockett, they're just social democrats. There's nothing far left about them, whereas somebody like AOC describes herself as Christian nationalist, which is explicitly authoritarian, and he's saying, no, they're the same. They both have their flaws. One of them doesn't support Israel, AOC. It's just so ridiculous. And he's also stripping away the context just to make a broader point about how, I guess, unserious.
Cognizant, welcome. He's trying to claim the moral high ground because of the personal attacks in Congress.
The House is, and we all agree that they're unserious, but Greene was the one lobbing the insults at Democrats.
Maybe he's saying they're bigger issues than, even then, John is still a tool. Yeah, but why not just say that? And also, why are you trying to like equivocate Marjorie Taylor Greene and being like, yeah, they're both bad? Like the correct analysis, in my opinion, would be to be like, yeah, the far right always wants to pretend that they're victims, but actually, here's what happened, and then explain how Marjorie Taylor Greene should have been kicked out of Congress by now.
Democrats like AOC and Crockett were literally just defending themselves. And by John Fetterman's own standards, anything goes when it comes to self-defense. Because, you know, if you can defend yourself by doing a genocide and say that that's self-defense, then they should be able to defend themselves by spitting insults back at somebody who insulted them. See, I can invoke Israel needlessly too. But, you know, the
correct thing for a senator to do is not tweet about it. Well, yeah.
Ordeal, I think it's really insightful, not because we learned anything new about Greene or Crockett or AOC, but because a U.S. senator has chosen to publicly weigh in on a matter and both sides it for no reason in order to make his own Democratic Party colleagues seem as unhinged as far-right fascists like Greene, which is so stupid. But I mean, I'll conclude by saying that shutting the fuck up is free, and that goes for both John Fetterman and Marjorie Taylor Greene, because if there's any equivalence to be drawn here, it's between him and Marjorie Taylor Greene and not AOC and Crockett and Marjorie Taylor Greene, because he's the one who's aligned with far-right fascists to support a genocide of a foreign country. So shut the fuck up, John Fetterman. Jesus Christ.
True. She's not for sure, but she's elected. I'm not for kicking elected officials unless they break the law. Unfortunately, there is, or rather, fortunately, there are rules within that body that need to be respected. So, yeah, if she can't conduct herself in a manner that is becoming of a freaking representative of the United States, then yeah, they should be full stop. That there are reasons why they have rules. All the squabbling in Congress slows down the money train from DC to Israel, which that's what we really need to be talking about. And if you believe then that the rules, then if that's too ambiguous or subjective by my standards, I'd throw everyone out in Washington. Not by your standards. There are specific rules. If you attack somebody's personal appearance, you would be kicked out. Now, if you want to say that those rules shouldn't exist, then all bets are off. Then you shouldn't. Then she shouldn't be complaining. Then. Because either the rules count or they don't. There's no rule about speaking on personal appearance. Sorry, folks. Give me 1 second. There's no rule about speaking on personal appearance. Yes, there is. It's in the decorum rules. It's against decorum. I don't understand. Like, maybe before making a comment, like, look it up. I don't know.
Donald Trump has a very serious campaign finance problem happening right now. According to an analysis of what Donald Trump has raised and spent through the month of March, which of course was the last month for which we have that quarterly reporting, Trump has raised an astounding $220 million, right? He's kind of overcome a lot of the hurdles he was facing with raising money. He's doing a little bit better now, getting more money coming in. The problem he has is that he is spending it just as fast as it comes in, because in the same period where he raised $220 million, he spent $217 million. So you do the quick math on that. That leaves you $3 million, buddy. And here's where it gets even funnier. This analysis also shows that 2/3 of that money that Donald Trump raised, 2/3 of the 217 he spent, I should say, was spent on lawyers and legal fees. Only 1/3 of it was spent actually campaigning to be president of the United States. So not only is he spending money as quickly as it comes in, but he's not spending it on anything that's actually going to help him win the White House. Meanwhile, President Biden in that same period outraised him astronomically and still spent less on campaigning. Let me read you this. Biden raised more money, spent less of it on fundraising and none on legal costs, saved more, and has more waiting to hit his campaign bank account than Trump did. That's according to the analysis from Politico. So Biden is basically just sitting on mountains of cash, knowing that, you know what? I don't have to spend it right now. I could, but I'm not going to, because this guy can't seem to do anything. Because as quickly as money comes in, even when Donald Trump...
Now, you know, I know like money plays a huge part in elections. Way to a disproportional part in our electoral system. But I think specifically for Trump, I don't think it matters as much. Does that make sense? I don't think it matters as much. Like Trump's base is going to vote for him. Period. They're not going anywhere. ChatGPT says it's against decorum and we should ship her to Russia. I'm paraphrasing though.
Has a great night where he said he raised $50 million. Cool. But if you're spending 40 of that 50 million paying your idiot lawyers to continue to lose cases for you, then it doesn't matter. It genuinely does not matter whatsoever.
Like all the campaigning that's happening on Trump's side is literally being done for him. He's constantly in the news because of all these trials, and he just uses that as a way to paint himself as the victim. He doesn't like. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see Trump's financial problems as much of a issue as it would normally be, if that makes sense, right? Because like we all know, money has a huge like disproportionate effect on outcomes of elections. Usually, the person with the most money does have a significant advantage, but I don't know if that's the same. If that applies here.
Which, of course, is why he has now had to kind of call in Ron DeSantis, mend those fences so that he can get his hands on DeSantis's donors. Reports over the last couple weeks did say that DeSantis is now out there dialing for dollars for Donald Trump, calling up his wealthy donors saying, hey, yeah, I need some money for this guy because he's having some issues here. That's why reports last week said that Donald Trump was considering picking Nikki Haley to be his running mate on the condition that she pay his legal fees, because Nikki Haley pulled in a lot of Wall Street and defense money during her campaign. Trump needs money. But the funny thing is, he's not begging for money to run his campaign. He is begging for money to pay his legal fees. And what's even funnier than that is he's paying lawyers that are doing a really, really horrible job for him. Okay, if he was winning every case out there and just cruising through this criminal trial that he's currently facing, then it'd be like, okay, money well spent, right? But you spent tens of millions of dollars on lawyers to lose that New York fraud case that cost you $464 million. So you lose tens of millions on the horrible lawyers, and you still have to pay $464 million. You pay millions for the defense in the E. Jean Carroll defamation trials, and you lose those, and you have to pay out tens of millions of dollars for that as well. Your criminal trial, you're paying these guys millions of dollars. Things are not going well for you. Granted, we do not have a verdict in that case. Obviously, it's still going on, but you get the idea. Not only is he using up all of his campaign money
because Biden is leaking base votes. Yeah, like it's really about, like, the election is literally about that exactly. Like, what's going to determine the 2024 outcome is exactly that. As David Dole from the Rational National put it, this isn't exactly a race between Trump and Biden necessarily. This is a race between Biden and the couch, right? This is a race between Biden. This is a race that is going to be determined by whether or not Biden wants people to vote for him.
to pay these lawyers, but he's not getting anything out of it either. He continuously loses. So he's losing money, he's losing cases, he's paying these idiot lawyers to lose for him. Just all around, no matter which way you slice it, Donald Trump is apparently nothing more than a big fat loser. Hey, everybody.
That's true. That's true.
Mr. Secretary, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I was saying, the People's Republic of China.
He is a war criminal. The blood.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken was interrupted several times during a Senate Foreign Relations hearing by protests. I'm going to play for you these clips, and I'm also going to give you some context here as to why these are justified. Not even because of the obvious of the Biden administration itself and its ongoing policy and support of Israel's ongoing bombardment and ethnic cleansing of Gaza, but also because of what Antony Blinken himself has said, including recently. So there was some indication that this was going to happen at the beginning of the hearing before Antony Blinken even began to speak, because these individuals were pictured here at the back. As Lauren Gambino tweets out, protesters call Blinken the Secretary of Genocide and a war criminal as he enters his first of 4 Capitol Hill appearances this week. Capitol Hill appearances this week. This was clear that there were people there that did not agree with Antony Blinken, and they made that known. So let me get to the first clip.
The need for U.S. global leadership and for cooperation with allies and partners.
The Honorable Antony Blinken. I know they put that for freaking, people who testify in front of Congress. They always have that, but like, I guess depending on their title or whatnot. But he does not deserve that in front of his name.
Has never been greater. The People's Republic of China is pursuing military.
Was 6 years old when Israelis killed her. His Rwanda was 6 years old. Blinken, you will be remembered as the butcher of Gaza. You will be remembered for murdering innocent Palestinians.
So this is the first of several protests that happened within an 8-minute span. This one is maybe the most heartbreaking in the sense that there's a specific topic here. The protester.
He plays a mean guitar, though, I hear.
Yells out, Hind Rajab was 6 years old when Israel killed her. This was, in case you're not familiar, I've covered this before. There were a lot of headlines about this. This was a 6-year-old who was on the phone in Gaza with paramedics, waiting for help. The paramedics were given the green light to go in and save her. And then they were all killed by Israeli forces. And that led to, when the protests at Columbia were happening, they renamed that building to Hind's Hall. Then Macklemore came out with his song about Gaza called Hind's Hall. So there's been a lot of a large cultural impact because of that. Look, yes, it's one of 40,000 plus civilian deaths in Gaza, but it's one that I think is a microcosm of a larger ongoing perspective that the Israeli government and its allies has towards Palestinian life, where they simply do not matter. There's a larger piece here from the Washington Post that discusses this story as well. Palestinian paramedics said Israel gave them safe passage to save a 6-year-old girl in Gaza. They were all killed. This is Hind Rajab and her family and the paramedics that were killed at the time. So let me get to the next clip.
Yeah, good for them. Good for these protesters.
Mr. Secretary, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I was saying, the People's Republic of China.
He is a war criminal. The blood of 40,000 people is on his hands. The blood of 40,000 Palestinians is on his hands. He is a war criminal. He is a war criminal. Blinken is a war criminal. The blood of 40,000 people.
Here's the situation. As you may have heard, Congressman Colin Allred, a hardcore...
Get out of here.
So I let the clip roll there a bit because I wanted to show you his face as that protester was being carried out. I wonder what he's thinking.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man. Like, how do these people freaking sleep at night? His reaction. Where is it? Right here. Like, how do people like this sleep at night knowing that their actions have directly led to the deaths of tens of thousands of people that we know of? You don't get to be Secretary of State if you have a conscience. That's true. That's a good point. Hey, Hyper Novarcus, why were you banned in Tina's channel?
So I let the clip roll there a bit because I wanted to show you his face as that protester was being carried out. I wonder what he's thinking.
Blinken, I'm going to have a career on MSNBC in 6 months. Yep. Is that the Canadian leftist streamer? I asked a simple question because you've only been banned in one channel.
Someone like this has to know what he is supporting, yet remains in that position, does not resign, is still doing what he is doing, likely telling himself that it's better I'm here and doing what I can as opposed to someone else coming in here who maybe is even more hawkish than I am. But that would be ridiculous.
But like, how could that be the mindset? How could that be a mindset and still be okay with the deaths of tens of thousands of people, right? Like if that was really the mindset that was going on there, like, oh, if it wasn't me, there would be what, 100,000, 200,000? They would all be dead? I don't understand. This is pretty freaking bad, dude. It would be your job as Secretary of State in a rational, normal world to be like, you know what? We as the United States should not be involved in this. We should do everything we can to stop this and urge foreign policy in that direction.
He is supporting what he is supporting an Israeli government that is doing this.
Because they don't want it, because they wanted an echo chamber. Yeah, somehow I feel like if I were to ask Tina that wouldn't be the response. Just saying.
They are sending billions of dollars. They continue to send billions of dollars in weapons and support to an Israeli government committing ethnic cleansing. Making these people feel uncomfortable, I think, is necessary in a democracy.
I mean, here's just to kind of piggyback off the Simon Locker's comment. Is it even possible to make somebody like this feel uncomfortable? Like, is it even not that, not to say that what the protesters did doesn't, mean anything. But what I'm asking is, like, do people like this have even the capacity to feel uncomfortable by being shown what they are by these protesters? Like, are they even capable of feeling uncomfortable? That's my question.
A lot of people have this innate desire towards decorum, don't want to disrupt the peace. And let's be clear, it takes a lot of guts, a lot of confidence to yell out in a crowded hearing like this and call out a war criminal. These people deserve a lot of credit for doing that.
True.
Someone like this that is willing to stay in this position, is unwilling to resign, is unwilling to call out what is happening while they have the platform, have the power. Just to finish my sentence, they deserve to be protested. Think if, again, going to the mind of this man who there may be nothing in there. He may feel nothing at all. Maybe a complete sociopath, likely is a complete sociopath. But let's say there is a shred of him that's saying, well, as long as I'm here, I can help to maybe lessen the impact of what is happening in some way. Like they recently put a pause in some of the weapons going to Israel, which is, a handful compared to the thousands of weapons that have already been sent. But let's say there's a part of him that feels that way, that he thinks he's helping in some way. What would help even more is to resign and publicly criticize the position that Joe Biden and the government up until now has had. Now, of course, part of that would him having to concede that he was part of that problem. But that would have a greater impact. If this was someone who actually cared to make a difference, that would have a greater impact. Resigning and putting a spotlight on the problems here would have a greater impact than him staying in this position.
The man partied in a band on a wartime, so no.
Here is the last protest.
The president's FY25 budget.
Funding a genocide in Gaza. There have been 7 mass graves outside of hospitals. This is sick. This is deranged. You are a war criminal. Shame on you.
So I'm going to get to another clip of someone who recently met with Anthony Blinken and their experience. First here, something I also appreciate about these protests is that they are being very specific about what they are calling out. It's one thing to just call him a war criminal, which would be fine, but it's another to add on some extra context to why you are saying that, why you think this man's a war criminal. In this case, mentioning the mass graves that have been discovered, which, as the UN reports here, mass graves in Gaza show victims' hands were tied. And these are graves of women, the elderly, many of them stripped naked, bodies buried deep in the ground, covered in waste. It's just... Look, I've done a lot of commentary over the past 6 months on Gaza, and even I feel like I have just scratched the surface, because there are so many examples of war crimes, of just mass dehumanization that it's been impossible for me to even absorb, let alone discuss. But I want to get to, again, specifically, as I discussed at the beginning of this video, why criticizing Blinken, apart from the fact that he's Secretary of State, is important here. And what he has done himself, just through his own words, or said himself. Blinken criticized the protesting students' silence on Hamas. It shows you how fundamentally unserious this man is. Why would you criticize your government? Why would you expect students to criticize the U.S. government about Hamas when they're already anti-Hamas? Or if you're thinking, then why aren't they protesting Hamas? What is protesting Hamas going to do? Are they going to be like, oh, the students are protesting us, we must now give all the hostages back, which we already said we would do if there was a ceasefire, and Netanyahu rejected that? It's just so fucking stupid to think this way. It is so fucking stupid. And I shouldn't say it's not stupid. It's disingenuous. Blinken knows this doesn't make any fucking sense. But he's saying this as a way to deflect. Part of his statement is, what is it? It's good to see people, demonstrations were a hallmark of American democracy. At the same time, criticize the students for the silence on Hamas. Like, he can't just acknowledge the fact that people are demonstrating, and that is like, this isn't even anything. Like, this is not even supporting the protest, which of course he wouldn't, because they're against what he is doing. But he can't just sit there and say these demonstrations are, they're important for democracy. He can't even just do that without having to also add some stupid.
Yeah, David's correct. Like, what would, it's like, oh, well, curious. I don't see them protesting Hamas. Curious.
Shit on top of it that makes absolutely no sense as a way to undermine the protest. There's also this. Bilal Hamoud and a handful of Arab American leaders met with Anthony Blinken Friday.
I just saw this. This is freaking, man, this is on another level. This is on a whole freaking level. I just saw this not that long ago. In fact, I saw this on the Rational National Discord server. Man, this is on a whole other level. Man,
told him that if Palestine became a state, federal law would mandate the defunding of the UN, which could then defund the World Food Program, causing global starvation. Watch this.
So Anthony Blinken said,
like these people are so freaking sick that like they would literally go nuclear. They would literally go nuclear and say like, you know what? Nobody, the fund that keeps a world food program going, we're gonna take that away if Palestine becomes a state. If a people get the right to self-determination, I suppose the appropriate and hinged and normal response is to threaten a global food program. Is to threaten to defund a global food program. Does that sound normal? Does that sound hinged?
we have to oppose Palestinian statehood, or else the World Food Program budget will be cut and people will starve around the world. Like, that's the Secretary of State's assessment that he's making to you guys in this meeting?
The example was given that if the UN had to cut its funding, it would have to cut programs like the World Food Program. And that was the example shared, followed by the explanation that then the world would have to starve as the Gazans are. And so that is not the comparison you make to make an argument for why Palestinians should not have a free state.
So look, as the Secretary of State,
that is absurd. That is depraved on so many whole other new levels. Like, okay, not only are you directly are you involved in this ethnic cleansing, but you are then deciding that, like, oh well, you know, if the ethnic cleansing stops and these Palestinian people get their get a state, then I guess I guess the world is starving. You know, it's a possibility. I'm just saying. Bipedal Meatbag, welcome. It's the American way, though. Yeah, apparently.
That alone is a solid reason to protest Anthony Blinken. But as an individual as well.
That is absolutely freaking ghoulish. Holy yikes.
Why does anyone still use ponchos if they never actually work?
Oi.
All you need is the bearskin waterproof
I
tactical
don't
jacket.
need a freaking jacket, dude.
It's garbage human that he apparently is, saying bullshit like this in private, closed-door meetings with Arab Americans. That the rest of the world would have to starve if we recognized a Palestinian state. That is just another reason to protest the man. You know, there was a time at the beginning of this where I really thought Joe Biden was the barrier, as he seems to have, he's very malleable in other ways, but this seems to be a hard line for him where he's just full-on support of Israel with very little criticism. Because at the beginning of this, there was...
Hey, Mouselander.
There was a tweet that Anthony Blinken put out.
Howdy.
That he deleted quickly, where he was essentially implying that he wants to see a ceasefire. So I thought, okay, maybe behind the scenes, he actually is trying to push Biden in the right direction. I no longer think that. When you have closed-door meetings like this, saying shit like this, no, there is no... You can't blame somebody else. And Blinken's going to be remembered for the rest of his life as a war criminal, as a man who not only allowed this to happen, but enabled it. And this has not been the first time, just to end on some previous examples. Blinken was also protested. This is from October 31st.
Good.
Anti-war protesters calling for a ceasefire in Gaza repeatedly interrupted Anthony Blinken during a Senate hearing on Tuesday, where the U.S. Secretary of State was pushing for a $106 billion funding package including $14 billion in military aid for Israel, which they got. This is I'll share this short clip. This is from that protest back in October.
Committee will suspend, and I again ask that those in the audience respect the people in the room and allow us to continue.
Nah, go F yourselves. There's nothing to respect there. There's nothing to respect, in my opinion. Bless them all. Keep fighting. Yeah. There's nothing here to respect. Okay?
The hearing. The hearing will suspend until the disruption is removed.
Also, since this came out today, I figured I'd bring it into this video. Israeli officials seize AP equipment and take down live shot of northern Gaza. Yeah, this is what an innocent state would do.
Right. Yeah.
An innocent country.
Start taking down, like, not just Al Jazeera, but, like, the Associated Press, the AP. As Ken Klippenstein tweeted, we look forward to Biden's concerning tweet. We look forward to hearing about how Biden is going to be concerned.
Would shut down all media from covering Gaza. The AP of all places. The most just straight up, here is the video of a thing that happened. News organization that you will ever find. And they shut this down. And just Axio's piece on that. Not much more to really add to it. But you could tell I'm in good spirits. It's just I wish I don't know. I wish there was something else I could cover, because something happier, something more positive. But as long as this is going on, this is the most important story. There's going to be days where I'm going to want to talk about something else, or something else happens, and I could have a little break from the realities of the worst things happening right now in the world. But, it's impossible to not continue having Gaza as a focus, as long as Israel, backed by superpowers like the U.S., continue to support this ongoing genocide.
Yep. And here's the tweet that I saw earlier. Well, thank goodness, folks. Joe Biden, the White House is concerned. Thank goodness. Thank goodness the Biden administration has been concerned about reports that the Israeli government is taking away media equipment from the Associated Press. I'm so freaking glad that the Biden administration is concerned. The cameras were clearly Hamas, true. In 1 second, folks. All right, folks, we got a few headlines to go through. Oh, wait, actually, should we go over this? You know what? I think we probably should do this because this is just funny, okay? Just a bit of a palate cleanser, and then we move on. Just to kind of recenter ourselves, I should say, as David was saying. It is a tough subject. It is a tough subject. It is tough seeing ethnic cleansing and reports of mass graves and reports of war crimes daily. So I think we should do. I wasn't planning on doing any of this, but because I just posted it on Twitter, but I think we should do this before we finish the headlines. Yeah, the Rudy Giuliani has resorted to selling organic coffee, and as I commented, bro's hitting bottom of the bottom out here selling freaking coffee, folks. Let's get a quick
You
chuckle
all
out
know
of
I
this.
stand by the truth. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it.
Does that mean you truly believe that the election was stolen?
Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I...
Oh, man. Okay.
promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our...
You're also supporting my legal fees. Okay? Please help me. Wants to live in that CGI screen. Rudy in 2020 to Chuck Todd. Truth isn't truth. That's right.
Our call.
Oh man, that's just the icing on the cake, huh?
The cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders. So you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee.
Oh man. America's mayor resorting to selling coffee. I thought that was funny. I'm sorry. I don't know if you found it as amusing as I did, but I got a good chuckle out of that one. Judge blocks Biden administration from enforcing new gun sale background check rule in Texas because, you know, of course. Can he make 500 mil selling coffee? I don't know. I don't know exactly, you know, what the business, what the health of the business is gonna look like, but yeah. A federal judge has blocked the Biden administration from enforcing a new rule in Texas that would require firearms dealers to run background checks on buyers at gun shows or other places outside brick and mortar stores. You know, you would think that that's like the most like innocuous freaking like common sense thing. Like, hey man, if you're selling guns and you're a firearms dealer, and it would be common sense to have background checks regardless of whether or not you are selling said firearm in a brick and mortar store, right? Like, you would just think that should be like a universal kind of thing. But nope, apparently not. If he calls it Starbucks. Maybe. Although, if he does, I suspect that he's gonna have more than just a $500 million problem if he does that. The decision by the U.S. District Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk, the appointee from former President Trump, of course. I think this is the same clown who is a fanatic activist judge who was ruling on the case of the birth control case. I believe that's the same one. Came before the rule had been set to take effect on Monday. Yesterday, the order also prevents the federal government from enforcing the rule against several gun rights groups, including Gun Owners of America. It does not apply to Louisiana, Mississippi, Utah, which were also part of the lawsuit. Plaintiffs understandably fear that these presumptions will trigger civil or criminal penalties for conduct deemed lawful just yesterday. The Federal Bureau of Alcohol, the ATF, declined to comment. The Justice Department didn't immediately respond to comment. 26 Republican attorney generals filed the lawsuit in federal court in Arkansas, Florida, and Texas, aiming to block enforcement of the rule earlier this month. The plaintiffs argued that the rules violate the Second Amendment, of the Constitution, and that President Biden, a Democrat, doesn't have the authority to implement it. Explain to me how this would even violate the Second Amendment. The new requirement is the Biden administration's latest effort to curtail gun violence and aims to close a loophole that has allowed unlicensed dealers to sell tens of thousands of guns every year without checking that the potential buyer is not legally prohibited from having a firearm. Whatever, I can't even... Yeah, this must be the same judge, because I specifically remember that he had a very difficult name. The Second Amendment reads guns for tots, right? Yeah, apparently. Clown wrote that the rule sets presumptions about when a person intends to make a profit and whether a seller is engaged in a business. He said, this is highly problematic for multiple reasons, including that it forces the firearm seller to prove innocence rather than the government to prove guilt. What are you talking about? You're just making sure that that people who are purchasing said firearm go through a background check. I don't understand. Quote, this ruling is a compelling rebuke of their tyrannical and unconstitutional action that purposely misinterpreted federal law to ensure their preferred policy outcome, said Gun Owners of America Senior Vice President Eric Pratt in a statement yesterday. The Biden administration official proposed the rule in August, and it garnered more than 380,000 public comments. It follows the nation's most sweeping gun violence prevention bill in decades, which Biden signed in 2022 after lawmakers reached a bipartisan agreement in the wake of Uvalde that killed 19 children and 2 teachers 2 years ago this week. The rule implements a change in the 2022 law that expands the definition of those who are engaged in the business of selling firearms and required to become licensed by the ATF and therefore must run background checks. This is going to keep guns out of the hands of domestic abusers and felons, Biden said in a statement last month, and my administration is going to continue to do everything we possibly can to save lives. Congress needs to finish the job and pass a universal background check legislation now. This judge is a sole district court judge in Amarillo, a city in the Texas Panhandle, ensuring that all cases filed there land in front of him. Since taking the bench, he has ruled against Biden administrations on several other issues, including immigration and LGBTQ protections. Cool. Very nice. Very nice. So, yeah. Yeah, it's not like we have a gun violence problem in America, right? Yeah. It's too much of an ask for people intending to sell firearms to request a background check, apparently. That would be an infringement of rights. No, it's not. It isn't. You can claim that, but it's not an infringement on the right to own a firearm at all. Being asked to go through a background check is not an infringement of your rights. It literally isn't. So, do you think? Here's a question. Do you think that felons? Do you think that felons should have the right to vote? Not being a criminal in order to have a gun is the least we could ask. I think we need even more regulation. The last thing we need are more regulations. No, I think we do need regulations at some level. At some level, and I agree. And I agree. I do think that felons should have the right to vote. They don't solve the root problem at all, and they make life worse for honest people. Not really, because an honest person would just pass a background check, right? Does that make sense? That argument doesn't make any sense. They make life worse for honest people. How is how is passing a background check making life worse for an honest person? Marginally worse. No, not worse at all, because an honest person would not have a problem passing a background check. So how would it be that their life would be worse? It's an additional barrier. No, it's not, because they would pass a background check. If you're an honest person and you don't have a record, you don't have a barrier, because you would be able to obtain the firearm. They would have to pass it. It's a barrier. If an honest person doesn't have a record, they would pass the background check. So therefore, it is only a barrier to people who can't pass the background check. Does that make sense? It's not a math test, exactly. It's a passable barrier to those who pass it. Not much of a barrier to honest people, is it? Because if your argument is like, well, they impede honest people, it doesn't. If an honest person doesn't have a felony record or something like that, that would prevent them from obtaining said firearm, then they really don't have a barrier to it, right? They're always going to be able to obtain the firearm. They just apply for the background check. If you want less mass shootings, then you have to fix mental health and social cohesion of your society. So you'd be in favor of universal health care, including mental health? To improve social cohesion, you would also be in favor, I imagine, of making sure that people have housing, education, healthcare, food, things like that. Here's a question. So why get all hung up on being asked to pass a background check? Why would we get hung up on, like, if you're already okay, which we all agree that to prevent mass shootings or just crime in general, you kind of have to fix the underlying socioeconomic circumstances that would lead to that. Then why get hung up on something so simple like a background check? I'm not hung up on it. I'm just saying that it's a barrier definitionally. A barrier to people who shouldn't have firearms. Isn't that what we want? Because it's not, you said it was a barrier to honest people, but it's really not. It's only a problem. It's only a problem for people who shouldn't have firearms. Because I think tight regulations and removal of freedoms are part of the problem in eroding social cohesion. But that's not removing a freedom. Like, your Second Amendment didn't go away. I think you're thinking about this the wrong way. In my opinion. Your Second Amendment didn't go away. The gun control point is marginal, but regulations are like a death of a thousand cuts. Lots of small things add up. this is not at all relevant. Like if you have a regulation that says, you know, maybe criminals shouldn't have firearms. Like I don't understand what this catastrophization, like, oh, death by 1,000 cuts, man. I can't believe that you would advocate for a regulation that would prevent criminals from having firearms. I don't understand. I don't understand. That's like saying, like, man, you know, these regulations, man, I think, you know, first they start with advocating for making sure that criminals don't have firearms by advocating for background checks, which is like the bare freaking minimum that you can request of people to do. Next thing you know, we'll be allowing murder or something like that, because it's a regulation which impedes on non-criminals too, albeit marginally. It doesn't impede non-criminals because non-criminals would be able to obtain said firearm. That's the whole point. It doesn't impede on your ability. I was never impeded on my ability to obtain a firearm because I passed a background check, because I know I can pass a background check. Imagine if you had to pass a background check to purchase food. Even if you pass it, your freedoms are still impeded. That's not the same thing. That is a false equivalency. If I never had my firearm, I wouldn't starve to death. This is a complete false equivalency. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize food was used to I didn't realize food was a tool to murder people. I didn't understand. I'm not understanding. This doesn't make any sense. It's an analogy comparing different things to show how freedoms can be impeded even if you achieve the thing in the end. It doesn't, no, that's a completely different thing to compare, right? Like if I had to pass a background check to have food, something that you fundamentally need to live, that is completely a different scenario than having to pass a background check to obtain a firearm. We're not asking, food producers to request background checks on whether or not you can obtain food. We're asking firearms dealers to make sure that they do background checks so that people who aren't supposed to have firearms don't obtain firearms. There are different things. I was comparing on the dimension of you being impeded, but it's a silly comparison. Do you see how silly it sounds? Jesus Christ. And like you're saying, like, oh, regulations are bad. Well, how do you think all these, like, for example, how do you think all the clean air and water that we have got to be? It got to be because of regulations, right? Man, if you would have seen the freaking pictures before, like, the heavy regulations came into play, here's now that you're talking about food, here's a good comparison. We should have regulations to make sure that companies don't put garbage in our food like they do now. Some regulations achieve good outcomes, but you said regulations are like death by 1,000 cuts. You just literally said regulations. You think tight regulations and removal of freedoms are death by 1,000 cuts. So it's either one or the other. You're making it seem like you just said that regulations are good, so you agree with me. You agree with me. I think there's two different kinds of regulations, one that lead to net positive and others which are regulations for the sake of regulation. But that's not the case. Like, can I get an example of a regulation that was just for the sake of regulation? Can I get an example of that? Like, I'm actually curious. What is a regulation for the sake of regulation? Can we get an example of that? Seatbelts, true. Oh man, we should play that ad where seatbelts became mandatory with all the freaking people saying, oh no, not seatbelts became mandatory. Drinking and driving became outlawed. That was it. That was some gold commercial. Well, it happens a lot in free markets, for example, or copy. No, stop it. I don't care. I need an example of a regulation for the sake of regulation. I don't need all this nonsense. What is an example? Because obviously, if you know what you're talking about, you would have one, right? I don't care about free markets or whatever. I asked specifically, you just said others which are just regulations for the sake of regulation. What are those? Can I get an example? There are building codes and zoning law regulations which prevent house building. I need an example because there may be a building code that is for a reason so that the house doesn't catch on fire. Like, I don't understand. You're not giving me an example. Some environmental regulations can prevent profit for business in a case where there's no net positive. Some environmental regulations can prevent profit. I don't have a list of exact regulation codes to hand right now, man. You can't even give me a freaking example. This is freaking embarrassing, dude. Some environmentals can prevent profit for business. Yeah, good. Fuck those businesses. If they're literally trying to destroy the environment, which obviously has negative externalities on people, the government's job is to make sure that there's regulation so that businesses don't destroy the environment. That's not a good example of regulations for the sake of regulation. There's a very good freaking reason why there's environmental regulations. Workplace safety regulations, which heavily restrict freedom of workers for extremely low probability events. Yeah, dude, sure. Let's rail on OSHA regulations because we don't give a shit about worker safety. Yeah, dude, that doesn't make any sense at all. That's not regulation for the sake of regulation. There are reasons why there are workplace safety regulations. As someone who knows somebody who's like heavily involved in OSHA and somebody who's also it just happens to be very knowledgeable about regulations regarding, like, for example, OP90, OPA, OP90 as well. Then, like, man, you're just so wrong. I can't even begin to describe how wrong you are. I'm not talking about every single workplace safety regulation. I'm talking about specific kinds. But you would know these if you're making these assertions, right? There are two different kinds of regulations. I don't know what that means. You gave me regulations that can have a positive and regulations that are for the sake of regulation. You still haven't given me a single example of what a regulation is for the sake of regulation. Like, I don't understand. You're making up random scenarios. You said workplace safety regulations, which heavily restrict freedom of workers for extremely low probability events. What is that? What is that? Is there like a specific regulation that you can point to that is just a regulation for the sake of regulation, or is there maybe a reason why there's a workplace safety regulation behind that? Because those aren't examples. Give me some time then. Well, hopefully you come back next time with actually some good freaking examples before making such a ridiculous statement like that. Man, people just like have such confidence in typing out stuff, and they don't bother to take 5 seconds to actually think through the statements that they're actually saying. It's It's actually phenomenal. It's actually phenomenal. Yeah, like water in the light. Like, I don't understand what that even means. Regulations for the sake of regulation. I genuinely don't understand what that means. Because probably they don't actually have an example of what that would look like. Because I can guarantee you, even if you don't agree with the logic behind the regulation, there are reasons behind, especially workplace regulations like the OSHA, regulations. Like there are specific reasons, even if you think that they're asinine and are based on low probability events. Like, no, there's a freaking reason, man. There's a reason. And there's also a reason behind the saying regulations are written in blood. There's a reason why that saying exists. So, yeah, this is just such a silly freaking argument. Anyways. Actually, the real question of the day is like, how did you, well, it doesn't matter. Because by the time I'm finished, I don't even know if they're coming back. What the heck did they do to get banned in Tina's channel? Did all of Tina's, like, trolls decide to come here? Anyways. Yeah, water and the lights. Yeah. Letting my children play on the motorway. Silly regulations. Parking on the side of the highway. What a silly regulation that impedes people's freedoms. Yeah, they all came here. Yeah, lead and paint. What a silly freaking regulation. Using certain materials over others when building houses. What a silly regulation that impedes developers' profits. Bro, I don't give a fuck. Oh my god. Pesky zoning laws that would probably prevent you from building over like important freaking important habitats. Yeah, whatever, dude. I don't care. By the way, I'm sure you could probably find the regulation that's pretty absurd. I'm pretty sure you could probably go back in time and scroll through and find something silly. But the fact of the matter is you couldn't even point to something is pretty indicative that you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, we should play justified regulation bingo. Like, I'm sure if you took the time to flesh out like these arguments, you probably could find something somewhere that one municipality decided to do that seemed pretty silly. I don't know. Like, but the fact of the matter is, you don't know. You didn't come with the receipts, my dude. You just came here to talk. Right to life regulation bingo. And like out of all the silly things to comment on, you really think that freaking putting forth background checks is impeding your Second Amendment? That's pretty freaking silly. All right, folks, we got one more. Trump posts then takes down video online with headlines about a unified Reich. Yeah, that's right. The oopsies keep happening. The only unjustified regulations are by the right-wing ghouls. Yeah, I would say like the right wing. I would say the right wing actively wants to take away regulations, like regulations that like that clown was saying, to take away workplace safety regulations. The right wing actually is very keen on eliminating regulations, on deregulation, which only leads to negative outcomes. Thus far as we've seen. Yeah, not see a problem. Yeah. Hey, look, another whoopsies, folks. Hey, how many whoopsies need to happen before we start calling a spade a spade? Does that make sense? How many whoopsies are gonna happen before, they're not whoopsies anymore, right? But have no fear, folks. There is an answer to this. Apparently, it's going to be the classic. Who do you think is going to get the blame for this one, folks? Okay. I can't have an abortion, but they can poison the water. Absolutely. That's how this works. Who do you think is getting thrown under the bus this time? DEI? All right. We'll take DEI. The 30-second video shared from Donald Trump's social account includes World War I era newspaper clippings alongside the fictional headline presuming a Trump victory in November. By the way, this is like straight up just Nazi propaganda. Former president, reminiscent of that DeSantis video, the DeSantis video with the fascist black son. Former President Trump's posted a video on Monday yesterday that features images of a hypothetical newspaper article celebrating a 2024 victory for him and referring to the creation of a unified Reich under the headline, "What's Next for America?" The 30-second video Trump posted on his social media site, Truth Social, features several articles styled like newspapers from the 1900s and apparently recycling text from reports on World War I, including reference to German industrial strength and peace through strength. One article in the video asserts that Mr. Trump would deport 15 million immigrants in a second term, while text on screen lists the start and end days of World War I. Another headline in the video suggests that Mr. Trump in a second term would reject globalists. A term that has been widely adopted by the far right, and scholars say can be used as a signal of anti-Semitism because it is, especially in this context. It's Nazi code. The Trump campaign said in a statement that the video had been posted by a staff member while Mr. Trump was in his criminal trial in Manhattan. The video was up on his account until early Tuesday, and his campaign did not respond to question late Monday about why it had not been taken down. It was then deleted sometime Tuesday morning. So here's a question. If it really was like the staffer posting this kind of stuff, then like I have a question. Why do you have staffers who are posting Nazi propaganda? That's the question. It just seems to me like it keeps happening over and over and over and over and over again, huh? Difficult to keep who we hate / who we don't hate in line, am I right? Okay, I've got a bunch of examples now. I just need one, man. Jesus Christ. Maybe that timeout did you some good. The Trump campaign said in a statement and that the video had been posted by a staff member while he was in the criminal trial. Quote, "This was not a campaign video. It was created by a random account online. Hey, bets on this being a Nazi account. Reposted by a staffer who clearly did not see the word while the president..." It wasn't just the word, dude. Man, okay. Whatever. This is pretty bad. This is not good, not great. While the president was in court, said Karen Levitt, a campaign spokeswoman, the real extremist is Joe Biden, of course. Mr. Trump repeatedly denounced Jews who vote for Democrats, accusing them of hating their own religion and Israel. In one video this month, the EPA regulation restricting use of CFC refrigerants, which led to the depletion of the ozone layer, forced companies to begin using HFCs, some of the most potent greenhouse gases. So again, that's not just for regulation that's not regulation for regulation's sake. Okay? That's companies being garbage and getting around and being pollutants in other ways. So how is that a regulation for being for regulating regulations for regulation's sake? That was your quote. You said there are regulations, and yeah, you're just arguing against corporations, right? Which is fine. But you said, but they said that there's regulations for the sake of regulations. That's not an example of that. There is a very good reason why you want to restrict the use of CFCs. As you just mentioned, they were burning a big ass hole in the freaking ozone layer. And do you know what happened when all of those CFCs got banned and the international community said no more? It fixed the ozone layer. So it wasn't just a regulation for regulation's sake. This is so silly. I've had time, okay? I've had 10 minutes, and the best that I could come up with is CFCs. You know, the regulations that were adopted for the very specific reason to address the giant hole in the ozone layer, which, incidentally, it did address that issue. Oh my god! This is so silly. Put another tally on the scoreboard for regulations that make sense, huh? Because I believe he he tried to say that there are two types of regulations. Anyways. Some which lead to net positive regulations and some regulations for the sake of regulation. So that's so far that's 0 for regulations for the sake of regulations, and all the points have been awarded so far to the regulations that have positive outcomes. This is so asinine. This is embarrassing. Anyways. Mr. Trump has repeatedly denounced Jews who vote for Democrats, accusing them of hating their religion and Israel. In one video this month, he said if Jewish people are going to vote for Joe Biden, they have to have their head examined. Not anti-Semitic, by the way. Mr. Trump, whose advisors have been crafting plans for a second term that would be more radical than his first, has also drawn criticism during his campaign for echoing the language of past authoritarian leaders, dehumanizing his political opponents as, quote, vermin, and promising that he would not be a dictator except for day one, right? Because, you know, famously dictators give up power after one day. In November of 2022, Trump had dinner with Nick Fuentes, an outspoken Nazi, who is one of the country's most prominent white supremacists. He also tried to downplay the violent white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, describing episodes as a, quote, big hoax. 1 woman was killed and 40 people were injured when an avowed neo-Nazi plowed his car into a cloud. The term Reich is often associated with Germany's Nazi government under Adolf Hitler, who established a Third Reich that succeeded its two counterparts, the medieval Holy Roman Empire and the German Empire of 1871 to 1918, which lost to World War I to the Allied powers. The sentence referring to the creation of a unified Reich is used 3 times in the video. It reads in full, German industrial strength significantly increased after 1871, driven by the creation of a unified Reich. In the beginning of the video, as an announcer asks what's next for America, the text part is partly visible, including the words, the creation of a unified Reich. The German Empire that fought in World War I was founded when many different German-speaking states and regions unified by some by force into a single powerful nation in 1871. That empire was dismantled at the end of World War I, and Hitler stoked resentment against the loss of former German territories and against Jewish people as he rose to power. Which led to World War II. President Biden's campaign accused Mr. Trump of echoing Nazi Germany by posting the ad saying in a statement that the video is foreshadowing a second Trump term. This is the response. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the actual ad, but this is the response. Quote, this was not a campaign video. It was created by a random account and reposted by a staffer who clearly did not see the word, even though it appeared several times. I mean, like, whatever. While the president was in court. Quote, here's the rest of it. Quote, the real extremist is Joe Biden, who has turned his back on Israel, and the Jewish people by bowing down to radical anti-Semites, and terrorist sympathizers, and his party like Ilhan Omar and AOC, a thing that is literally not happening. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so we're not going to address the fact that, like, you know, a Trump staffer is on his account retweeting like Nazi propaganda. We're not gonna talk about that. Instead, let's talk about how Joe Biden is the anti-Semite, right? You know, I was just thinking about that that comment. And like the original argument that this clown made said EPA regulations restricting the use of CFC refrigerants, which led to the depletion of the ozone layer, forced companies to begin using HFCs, some of the most potent greenhouse gases. So, like, the argument would be then that we needed a more broader and stricter regulation. So you're making an argument for pro-regulation. This is so, like, I'm just trying to, like, I'm just trying to understand here. The entire conversation made zero sense. Anyways, sorry, I was just like, trying to make brainworms. I was trying to make sense out of something that didn't make sense, I guess. This one will go through really quickly. Biden speaks with Johnson and McConnell to push for a border bill because, of course. President Biden talked on Monday with Mike Johnson and Mitch McConnell as the White House pushes for a vote on bipartisan security bill in the Senate. Like, this is all we need to know. Really, like, they're still trying to push this this nonsense. The vote is all but certain to fail amid opposition on both sides of the aisle, but will allow Democratic leaders to flip the messaging switch on Republicans at the border dominates chatter on the campaign trail. But like, this is only serving the right. That's it. That's the only thing that this is serving. You're not going to get those votes, Joe. You're not going to get those votes. All right, folks, I got to get going. Thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all the new followers, biddies, subscriptions, all of that. That's his only hope now with with Gaza and the inflation. Yeah, but that's not it, man. That's not it. That's the plan here. That's a losing strategy. That's a losing strategy. Whew. And given the context of the previous article, not good, not great. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Once again, thank you, Michael Hassler, for modding, and Heat for modding the chat. I appreciate it. Join the Discord, folks. This Saturday, there will be a movie night event, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Join the Discord. If you want to support the channel, there are many different ways of doing so, including following the channel, liking the stream, following us here, subscribing. Subscribing. You missed my point. I meant that a regulation can lead to equally destructive event, but that regulation didn't lead to that. Companies just decided to pollute, in other words, and that wasn't the point that you made. The point that you made was that there was regulations for the sake of regulations, right? That's your words. I literally see them right here. I have access to the freaking history chat, the chat history. That wasn't just a regulation for the sake of regulation. That was the original. That was the original argument. And like, so what? If that's a criticism of regulation, so what's the answer then? Just let them continue to pollute? That doesn't make any sense. They had to make sure that these companies stopped using CFCs. I tried to have a nuanced and in-depth conversation, but you ignored the point. No, you didn't make a point. That's the problem. You never made a point. You never made a point. You said there's regulations. It's not the simplistic thing as how you portrayed it. What? How did I portray regulations? I said regulations are necessary, and you just went ahead and made a point and made my point for me by saying like, yeah, we needed to regulate the CFCs because they were making a giant freaking hole in the ozone, and then you admitted that yeah, it was necessary. The only problem is that we didn't go far enough. Jesus Christ. Anyways. Whatever, they need to find somewhere else to get attention. True. Like, by the way, chat, that is a classic. That is a classic sea lion. Because like their original point, was that like there are regulations for the sake of regulations because I have access to the chat history. Okay. And these are not criticisms of regulation. These are criticisms of companies. How is taking away CFCs, how is regulating or banning CFCs via regulation bad? This makes no sense. Anyways, thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate it. This just blows my mind that people can be this really obtuse. Yes, exactly. For being obtuse. This absolutely makes no sense. It is baffling. Anyways, thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to do all the social media stuff. Again, join the Discord. Consider supporting the channel in different ways, including checking out the merch store. By hitting ! merch. Again, join the Discord. Regulations beget regulations beget regulations, and then came Saul. Right, yeah, brainworms indeed. I don't understand, how is a banning on CFCs a verdict on regulations? What criticism are we trying to have an in-depth and nuanced discussion about? This makes no sense. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate it. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. Yeah, join the YouTubes. All right, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.